Um, the compliance training and again the licensing and the certification, just as it relates to laundering money, as the government learned more about how terrorists laundering money in and out of this country. I will not share the experience that I actually was involved in prior to 9/11 unintentionally, but I realized afterwards, dude, I think I just helped somebody launder $1 million, and it was a Islamic organization here in Indianapolis. And of course, none of us knew this pre 9/11 what we were talking about. But the amount of crap just based on money laundering that we all had to go through on a yearly basis, again, to protect these companies. So I love that one. I'm sorry to spend some time on it, but that one hit pretty close to home. Okay, here's the last one. Fair Labor Standards Act. Another mid-1930s law authorizes Congress to set wages, overtime rules, and other employment-related measures. That a handful of election-seeking individuals should hold such power over the ability of individuals and companies to come to their own employment agreements is something that needs to be reconsidered. Again, dude, this is not Denmark. This is not socialism, but that sounds like it.
It absolutely does. I mean, how in the world can a union-backed Depression era New Deal agenda that has been so thoroughly debunked still apply 80 years later is beyond me. So, Mike, here's the question. Those are 6 really, really, really good ideas of crap laws that need to get tossed, right?
Right.
So here's the question. And what's the problem with the suggestion? Is it going to happen?
No.
No. Why not?
Just pick them off one at a time. You go to Higher Education Act. I mean, really? Ron Paul, the Ron Paul Institute webpage, just today or yesterday, I was just reading this morning, listed, 10 or 12 things that Congress should do. And it's abolishing this department and that department. And, part of what we're talking about here, it's just never going to happen because, why do you think not? It's not going to happen.
Well, primarily is that the key thing for this is that all of these concentrate power in Washington.
Right, well, sure.
And you've just got, we just had a couple of months ago, we had all of these people, some of them well-intended, of course, but they've just done all this stuff to put their arms around this power. And we just saw with what's happened with John Boehner. Are they actually going to give up this power? I mean, I can see even conservatives talking ad nauseum about how these things need to be fundamentally changed. They need to be rethought. They need to be rejiggered. We need to redouble our efforts to correct them, to fix them. But the idea that Washington in any sort of majority is going to come around and say, you know what, we need to stay out of people's lives. I just don't see it.
And you're right, and you're right also that it's on both sides of the aisle. I mean, you mentioned Boehner, one of our faves. He, how many times has he gone all Barney Fife, puffed his chest out, railed against Obamacare, stormed away in dramatic fashion from the podium as if there's going to be hell to pay, and then look at his budget. We've talked about that too. I mean, it fully funds Obamacare. I mean, all talk and no hat, as they used to say about pretend cowboys in Texas. I'm sure they still do.
Well, and the other part about it is this, is that every single person, every single company, every single interest that directly benefits from all 6 of these things has far more interest in defending them than those of us that don't have a direct interest do in battling them.
Well, there's no question. I mean, entrenched congressmen supported by special interest groups, lobbyists crawling all over the hill like ants. It's the whole system. It's all about all of those people, everybody above involved in any of those groups I just mentioned. It's about them. It's about their jobs. It's about their power. It's about their influence. And we can sit here, Ted Cruz or even Ron Paul can rail against whatever have you, but at the end of the day, nothing's going to change with this stuff.
Yeah, here's the thing, Mike. And here's an analogy that I'm going to use. The guy that's getting a penny from every American has far more resources and interests in maintaining that than the Americans are to stop having to pay out that penny.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah. Well, now I'm all depressed. Earlier I was pissed. Now I'm depressed. So.
That tends to be the two poles that we vacillate between on our show.
I know.
We interject pissed and depression with bouts of laughter.
See, and it's even more fun, well, except for the laughter part, when it happens at the same time. When you're pissed and depressed, that's awesome. I love
that. You're just describing my marriage.
That's your best line of the day, dude. So let's do one more of yours. I like this one because we're talking about government anyway, so this dovetails. But government's utter inability to boost economy laid out in 3 simple charts.
This all has to do with labor. Everybody understands that supply and demand determine price. The greater the supply of something, the lower the price. The greater the demand for something, the higher the price. I mean, even for the people on the left, they may rail against it. They may hate that that's the case. But supply and demand determines the price of something. Of course, a cost is an input, but not necessarily so, right? Anywho, labor is a good that's subject to the exact same supplies and demand, right?
Exactly.
And that is a much more difficult thing for people to get in mind. So the first chart here shows about inequality tax, the U.S. middle class, showing that when you combine inflation and economic growth, the household income in the broad middle class has been far below what the projections and have been based upon what the expectation would have been based upon average economic growth and inflation.
Right.
Now, there is one problem with this graph, and that is that it's comparing household incomes. And what's interesting, Mike? You want a little bit of insider info on this article?
Sure.
Okay. Kyle sent this thing to me, and he said, hey, look, man, this is important. There's some really good graphs in here. I want to do it. And as I'm looking at them, man, the original article that he sent me had 7 different graphs, and they were all kind of lefty. And even this particular one, I had to point out that, wait a second, this is an interesting talking point, that household income of the broad middle class has decreased relative blah, blah, blah. But the thing that it doesn't mention is average household sizes have decreased.
Okay. Now, listen, just real quick, and you know me, but I want to back up the bus for the folks that maybe didn't focus or understand the importance of something you said earlier. You said, I believe you said that labor is a product. I would say it. I agree, and I would say labor is part of the cost of doing business. And let's again apply the supply and demand reality to that. Again, we're talking facts. We're talking data. We can substantiate it. But when you look at the liberals, man, this hell-bent thing to increase the minimum wage, it's not based on that. I mean, even the CBO says by driving up the minimum wage to what, $10.10, you're going to lose hundreds of thousands of jobs right off the bat. Democrats it's both. By and large, they don't get that or they don't care because the objective is the ballot box. So I just didn't want to lose that point because
you know what? That's an incredibly important point. And yeah, labor is looked at as 2 different things depending on which side of the ledger you're on. From a business standpoint, it's certainly a cost. But for me as an individual, what I have to offer the marketplace, my labor, that's effectively a good that I'm selling. And that labor is valued based upon all the things that go behind it. And I can price my labor. Let's say that I price, I don't know, what would be a really good income? Let's just use round numbers. Let's say I want to make $500,000 a year, right? I'm willing to work 60 hours a week.
Right.
So what does that work out to be? That's $160 an hour. So let's say I want to price my labor at $160 an hour. I'm free to offer that into the marketplace at $160 an hour, but it's only when somebody recognizes that there's $160 an hour worth of value in my labor am I going to get it.
Right.
Now, if it turns out that I'm 19 out of 20 from the free throw line, I can hit 75% of my three-pointers. I average 12 to 14 assists a game, 12 to 14 rebounds a game, and I average 3 fouls over the course of 4 quarters. My labor is going to be worth way more than $160 an hour. Especially if I'm sick.
Well, that's exactly where you're selfish, because if you got like the guy who's 10th on the bench, averages 2.3 points a game, maybe a rebound every here and there, then why should you not subsidize his salary?
Okay, smart Alec, I'm trying to make a serious point here.
No, but you're right. That's a point. Right.
Then the other side of it, I think about my son. My son just got a promotion yesterday at his job in Austin. He was delivering food to tables here at a Panera Bread for 6 months.
Right.
That's the sum total of all his employment history. He got a job working for a company in Austin, working customer service remotely, answering basically customer service queries on the computer.
Okay.
He would get between 1 and 2 customer service queries an hour. Right? So he had to have a computer, he had to have a Wi-Fi connection, and he basically needed to have some sort of command over the English language.
Right.
Right? That would not be worth $160 an hour under any circumstance.
That's exactly both of our points. Right.
Exactly. So that's kind of the point of this particular thing. Now, the next one that I thought was pretty interesting is the conclusion that I drew from it is how do we change the supply and demand for labor? I mean, you brought up the minimum wage thing. That is an attempt to change the price of labor, hopefully not impacting the demand or supply of it at all. Just artificially change the price.
And say it this way real quick. It's forced intent to change the price without changing the value of it. And in fact, it would have the reverse effect, because if you push $10.10 up an hour for fast food workers, there are going to be a lot less fast food workers. So
that's right. And my conclusion of my argument is classical liberal economic theory would be is that if we can adjust the demand for labor, the supply and the price of labor will follow. For example, if all of a sudden my son's company needed 100,000 people to respond to emails a day, there's going to be a line out the door of people, and they're going to end up having to pay more people to attract them to that job than they otherwise would have.
Supply and demand, exactly.
Supply and demand. That's the way a guy can make $75,000 a year being a customer service guy, is if the company has such an incredible need for those people that they're having to pay people more to attract them from whatever else it is they're doing.
And see, this is what Democrats and liberalism don't understand. When people like you and I say that corporate tax rates should be lowered, that the upper brackets should be lowered for individuals because, the dreaded trickle down just might work. It's corporations and people with money, entrepreneurs, who create jobs. So they're never going to get that, Michael.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's funny. Whenever I get into a discussion about minimum wage or increased wage or household incomes declining and all that, I'm immediately accused of not wanting people to make money. And I'm like, are you kidding?
Because we're selfish, and that's what they think. Liberals look at, I wish we had more time. Liberals look at life as a zero-sum game. In other words, every penny that you make that I don't just takes away a penny from me that I could have had if you didn't make it.
It's not that at all, man. I want everybody to make a fortune.
I know that, but they don't understand that.
They don't understand that. You're absolutely right. All right, you know
what,
Mike?
Take us out, dude.
We're out of time. You've listened to The Right Mics with Mike Miller. Thanks for listening.
I walked away. That was you're kind of funny today, dude.
Have a